Hello, everybody. This is AJ. I'm just going to talk about, excuse me, the latest campaign which I'm starting at my home game. And instead of playing Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, we're playing Fantasy Age. So, Fantasy Age, this is just my brief overview about what my campaign is going to be about and what Fantasy Age is, and answers that question that somebody asked not too long ago on the one shot group of why play Fantasy Age? Why not just play 5th edition? Surely you can do all the same things. Yes, you can. Short answer. Long answer is Fantasy Age has a totally different feel to it, to your standard 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. You would have to modify a lot of things in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to make it feel like Fantasy Age. So first of all, Fantasy Age, it's D&D. It's got high fantasy elements to it. It's got magic. It's got swords and sorcery and that sort of stuff. However, it also has guns. It's muskets, black powder, that sort of thing, and you can introduce various elements into the system very easily. So it's conducive to very good storytelling and lends itself well to changing a lot of basic tenets because the system at its core is quite simple. And yeah, so guns are automatically incorporated into the story. Next up, you've got so you can have something like a dwarf with a gun and a sword and no magic. So that's perfectly fine. Another thing is that the magic system is different. They don't have clerics as a separate class or divine magic as a separate sort of thing. And so it's a little more gritty, the campaign. Actual healing somebody using skills and techniques and knowledge is a bit more effective than healing them with magic. So that's an immediate departure and different feel from Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, in that it does feel a little bit gritty. And yeah, it's the entire vibe of the campaign. When you look at it from the outset, and just reading through the book, you get a distinct sort of 14th century, 15th century vibe to it. So it sort of lends itself to the fashions and mores and things and the technology of that era. Whereas D&D, you don't see black powder and things like that. So it's more of a Dark Ages sort of thing. But with Fantasy Age, it feels a little bit more advanced. So that's how I've swung it, and that's kind of the feel to it. So people will walk around, looking like this. The world itself, I haven't given it a name yet. I've really just started. It's a very big world. If you look in this picture here, there's a little square down the bottom there, the red square, and that's this map here, which is it's called Midgen. This area of human settlement that the game starts off in, and it's a pretty fantastical landscape and countryside. It's got elements of sort of Hobbiton and Lord of the Ringsy sort of feel to it. Over the mountain ranges, there's kind of the Rohirrim people, and it's a little bit Midgen is a little bit Gondor-like, except it's split up into lots of different little kingdoms and fiefdoms and things, and it hasn't got any overarching leader. There's no emperor or grand king. There's lots of little kingdoms, and they've been involved in warfare for a very long time. Um, so the warfare has kind of settled down, and we're settling on an area of peace and quiet, and centering our campaign even further down into Great Rock Castle. And Great Rock Castle is in the lowlands of Midgen, and it's in an area which is kind of the seat of the Orcish civilization. And unlike D&D, where orcs are sort of noble savages, in this they're the people of the land. They arrived in this land a little bit earlier than humans did, but humans and elves and dwarves all are kind of recent settlers within the last few thousand years. There's no really ancient culture of dwarves and elves, and they don't have that animosity that they have in D&D. And humans and orcs don't have that deep animosity in this game either, in this particular campaign. So they really are the people of the land, and they have retained their sort of tribal nature and their connection to the land and a heavy sort of spiritual pagan nature to them, and they're not afraid of hard work and labor, and they're quite content with their lot that humans have this feudal system, and that they generally occupy the bulk of the Orcish population occupies serfdom or fief, they're peasants basically, working folk, and they're quite happy with this because the humans kind of let them do their thing, and they respect the strength and resourcefulness and productivity of the Orcish people. Orcs themselves are very fiery in their temperament, and they have that sort of, when they're angry, they flare up, but they don't hold a grudge overly much. They feel their emotions very strongly, and they're very passionate and artistic. And they're fiery and get into arguments and things, and they love their social drama and things, but they're not bloodthirsty murderers and raiders, and never have been. So there's that, but they do have that fiery emotional core to them, and an inherent strength. So they're kind of like, respected for their size and strength and physicality, but they're not looked down upon it. And yeah, people are used to them. They're used to their appearance and their continence and their culture. It forms a part of Midgeon. Dwarves and elves are relatively reclusive. Dwarves have a lot more to do with humans than elves do generally, but where the humans live near the forest lands, they interact with the elves a bit more. Elves are protective of their forest home, but they're very much part of the forest and deeply spiritually connected to the forest, and don't trust. They're kind of agoraphobic. They don't like living outside of the forest, really. So that limits them somewhat and gives them strengths in other areas. The dwarves are very they're business minded and very industrious, and they have played many different sides of the various wars between human kingdoms and settlements, and been involved deeply with this whole thing over the past few hundred years. And as peace is settling on the land, dwarves are sort of diversifying and figuring out new trade routes and things, and they're shoring up a lot of walls and things, which is how we sort of start the game off in Great Rock Castle. We've got 3 player characters. We've got Ish, who's this big, uh, he's a warrior, and he's a butcher, basically a professional butcher. He works in like an abattoir at Great Rock Castle, just outside Great Rock Castle, near some docks. And he's been doing that for a number of years. He also travels around various farms and does like home kills of bullocks and things, and smashes their head with a big hammer. And he's very adept at using his filleting knives. He loves his drink. He's a man of the people, and he doesn't take shit from anybody. And he's well respected because he's about 6'4" and built like a professional wrestler. So yeah, Ish is friends with 2 other individuals. One is a dwarven scholar, and the other one is a human. Well, he's a merchant's son, but he's really a rogue. He's more of a sort of persuadey, um, get up to no good and talk his way out of it sort of rogue. He doesn't, he's not a backstabber or assassin or a cut purse or a thief. He's more of a personality. He's friends with the noble-born dwarven scholar who's been studying for a while, and he's got an interest in everything. And the dwarven scholar has very much got an interest in the mystic arts and spell casting and things like that, and history and scholarship. Um, and the game has really just begun. We've had our session 0 where we've created the characters. They've sort of focused their character concept as during the character creation process. And for those of you who aren't aware of what Fantasy Age is all about, it uses a unique sort of dice mechanic where you roll 3d6 for pretty much everything. Combat and skill checks and ability checks all use the same mechanic, which makes it very streamlined and easy to learn. And there's a diversity in what you can do when you roll the dice and get a double on any of the d6, the 3d6s that you roll. You can then use the off-colored dice of those 3, which is called the stunt dice, and whatever number is on that stunt dice can be used to add extra abilities and things that you can to bring into play. Like if you're in combat and you roll doubles, and you can use your stunt dice to inflict extra damage or knock your opponent back and things. And if you're rolling it for a diplomatic situation, for instance, you might say something particularly funny or witty that you can spend these points on to give yourself extra advantages. So it's got that whole it's very narrative focused, and the game can swing and take on interesting facets. During the play on our session 0, we didn't really go a lot through the rules, and I think there was only one dice roll really, but it was mainly just character establishment and role playing. And I'm looking forward to how it's going to progress. The game seems to be quite immersive, and the guys really like their characters. I'm having a lot of fun narrating the world. It's a step back from the usual high fantasy that I'm used to, and it's more of a Lord of the Rings low fantasy sort of thing where magic items are known, and magic is known, but it's not commonly practiced. You don't see people practicing magic very often at all, and magical items are something that you don't buy. They are legendary things that you wouldn't buy at a shop corner, you know. And the world has got that sort of bustling 14th century, mid 14th century, 15th century swashbuckling musketeer sort of feel to it. And it's sort of finding its feet, all the human kingdoms are finding their feet after a period of extended war. Tension's still pretty high, and a lot of things have slipped in between the cracks during this time of warfare. Lots of things which have flourished in the shadows have not been investigated and rooted out like they should have, and people just generally don't have professional adventurer is not really a thing. So what these characters get up to from now on is kind of a new direction, a new career that they're discovering, taking time out of their other obligations to go off on a wild full quest. And yeah, who knows where it's going to lead? And I haven't made any real promises about how fantastical this world or this journey is, other than to show them the world map and their tiny place in it, and to show them that Midgen is actually just a tiny speck. So the scope of where they could go or what they can see is almost unlimited, and I'm really looking forward to it.